We're live. Good evening. I'd like to call the regular City Commission meeting of Tuesday, March 19th, 2024 to order and ask all of you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call. Mayor Pro Tem Roselle.
Present.
Commissioner Alder.
Present.
Commissioner Steinhardt.
Present.
Mayor Paul present. Commissioner Olsman is excused this evening. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So move. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move, Mr. Mayor.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Communications, I don't believe we had any. And so we'll move on to proclamations. We have one proclamation this evening proclaiming, the City of Huntington Woods proclaiming March 2024 as Women's History Month. Whereas American women of every race, class, and ethnic background have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our nation in countless recorded and unrecorded ways. Whereas American women have played and continue to play critical economic, cultural, and social roles in every sphere of life of the nation by constituting a significant portion of the labor force working inside and outside of the home. And whereas American women have played a unique role throughout the history of the nation by providing the majority of volunteer labor force of the nation. Whereas American women were particularly important in the establishment of early charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions in our nation. Whereas American women of every race, class, and ethnic background served as early leaders in the forefront of every major progressive social change movement. Whereas American women have served our country courageously in the military. And whereas American women have been leaders not only in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but in abolitionist movement, the emancipation movement, the industrial labor movement, the civil rights movement, and other movements, especially the peace movement, which create a more fair and just society for all. And whereas, despite these contributions, the role of American women in history has been consistently overlooked and undervalued in the literature, teaching, and study of American history. And now, therefore, be it recognized by the City of Huntington Woods that March 2024 is designated as Women's History Month, proclaimed this 19th day of March 2024. Elected officials, I don't see any. So we'll move on to public participation. This is an opportunity for the public to address the City Commission with anything that is not on the agenda. If you have anything, please come forward to the microphone.
Hi there. My name is Hannah Levine. I'm 7920 Concord Road. I'm here today because I'm very disappointed. I emailed the city 7 days ago. I emailed every single one of you, and not a single one even acknowledged my email, asking for an update on the known issue of the light at 1-800-PAIN-800, which back in January I was told, or my family was told, my brother and my father were told at this meeting that it was going to be taken care of soon. I would like to know a timeline, because at this point it doesn't seem like I ever get an answer when I'm the one emailing. It seems like there might be an aspect of sexism at play, because when my male family members email, they always get an answer, but I never do. And at this point, I've started to think that it's possible that the commission is being bribed by the business, and I understand it's a serious accusation, but for some
Very
reason-
serious, Mr. Mayor. I would just urge this pub member to be very careful in what they say under public comment any
I'm
further.
saying under public comment that I've been asking about this light since 2019 and emailing about it since February of 2023 with almost no action by the city. So it seems that the city must be having some reason to turn the other way. Of course, this is not saying that you for sure are being bribed, but it feels like there's a chance that that is something that is happening. I would like to know a timeline for when that light will be fixed. I also brought another issue in my email last week to the city's attention about this noise that is in my backyard as well. And I brought that first to the city's attention in October of 2023. And at this point, I typically don't feel comfortable coming to the city with any concerns because it seems like the city doesn't really take my concerns or my family's concerns seriously. So I would like to know what that timeline is, who is going to take action about the sound, which at this point, it doesn't seem like the city really cares to address. So those are my comments.
Thank you.
Thank
Do
you.
have any update on the light fixture?
I know Hank, you've been in contact with the building owner, and he's
Yeah.
given a timeline for this.
Mr. Decco gave us, he told us now that the weather's broken, that he'll have it taken care of. What he's gonna do is he's gonna move it down from the height that it is at to the top height of the fixture being 10 feet. And we were told that probably a couple weeks ago that it would happen in short order. I can check back with him and see if he can be a little bit more clear on when short order was. But I did see him the other day. As to the noise, Officer Goslin, who is our code enforcement officer, has been out there a couple times and has not heard any noise.
The code enforcement says that there will be a light or a noise meter used, not just someone's ears. So I'm wondering, will that be added to someone coming out and checking to see? Because I was told by whoever this person is or whoever came out when I first addressed it in October that they couldn't hear because there were lawnmowers, leaf blowers, and cars. So it seems like that's not a
He's
very,
been out since then and hasn't heard it either.
Actually, you actually have to stand in, actually, my backyard. I'm right next door to you.
Hold on just a moment. If you want to address, you can come up next.
Okay.
so I've only given permission so many times for someone to go in my backyard, so I'm
They're on
wondering.
the other side of the wall.
So, but if I'm saying the issue's in my backyard, how is being on the other side of the wall going to help?
Well, because the noise wouldn't stop at the wall wouldn't contain the noise.
Well, apparently the wall contains the light,
Okay, I'm not.
so.
Okay.
I find it concerning that whenever I bring up an issue, I'm told, oh, you'll get updates, you'll get something, and not a single one of you even acknowledged my email. It's been a week. When I get an email at work, I have to respond within 2 days. So I don't understand why I don't get anything. So I understand I brought concerns and I spoke about something that might be concerning to you, but it's really concerning to me as someone who would like to be able to use my backyard this entire year, but also the season. And it's been years of me bringing one issue to the attention and months of me bringing another issue. So I would hope that you would reconsider that there's enough being done right now.
Mr. Mayor, I just, for the record, when I received the email, I contacted our city manager to specifically discuss it. I was out of town before I responded. And I was told he was looking into the matter and that he would respond on the commission's behalf, which is why I did not respond. So.
Was that the December 3rd response that you sent in 2023, or are you referring to my email I sent last week?
When you sent last week.
Okay, so no one responded.
So like I told you, I was out of town. I talked to the city manager about it, who assured me that he would respond. So,
Well, Mr. City Manager, I did not receive a response from you either.
Okay. Mr. Goslin, I know, did make 2 visits last week. He's been out since, I think, Thursday, hasn't been back in because he's ill. He will be back in later this week, and we'll discuss it again. I'll respond to you by the end of the week.
Thank you.
I know you've seen us all before, but I'm the house right next door to Hannah. The light shines into my backyard, into my house. I've been complaining about it since before COVID, 2019. Also got no response, then kind of left it, and now other people have taken the ball. The noise, you have to be standing in our backyards to hear that noise. It's a motion noise. And we're pretty sure that the neighbor next door, Ron, is trying to get rid of the pests that live under his patio. And he's got equipment under there to, sound equipment to keep the rats and the raccoons and all the things that live under there and skunks out of there. We've approached him about it. He's like shown us the thing. It doesn't make a noise when we're all standing around looking, but every time I walk out my door, I hear that noise too. I think it's a motion activated noise. You have to be like in the backyard. You're never gonna hear it from the parking lot on the other side of the wall. Just saying. They all have permission to come in my backyard anytime I want, anytime somebody wants. So, and it is an annoying noise. It's like a high-pitched kind of thing, and there may be people who don't hear it as well, just so.
I'm sorry, what was your name?
Oh, Robin Gold.
What's your address?
26320 York.
Thank you.
I am right behind Formican Payne.
Okay. Any other comments from the public? Seeing none, we'll close public participation and move on to the regular items of business. First item is a matter of considering approval to purchase 100 vinyl Chase lounge chairs for the pool from Best Buy Patio Furniture in the amount not to exceed $25,035. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any public comment? Comments or questions from the commission? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2 is considering approval of the Huntington Woods Pool Cafe operation bid. City manager,
Thank you. I think as the council or the commission will recall, you approved an RFP to go out for this operation, which we did submit, submitted through the state bidding process. We received, quite a few bids were taken out. We only received one back, which was open on Wednesday, March the 13th. That was from Monarch Cafe, who has some familiarity with the pool operations and has worked with them in the past. Just for a little history, the city had run this cafe for many years. During COVID, that had kind of taken a back seat. So the last couple of years, we've looked to get this going. So Monarch submitted a bid. We asked for a pricing list, a menu and a pricing list, which they submitted. I reviewed that with Parks and Rec staff. Ms. Lauren Fletcher is here tonight. I thought the items and the price points they provided were in line with what we would anticipate. And like I say, Monarch has some experience operating this, so we're confident they can do this and will do a good job. I have reviewed, I did get you a copy of the certificate of insurance, so we have reviewed that, and everything does appear to be in order. As for remuneration back to the city, they will provide 7.5% of sales back to the, gross sales back to the city on a monthly basis. So I feel this is an adequate proposal. I'm confident Monarch can do this and do well, and we do recommend we go forward with their bid proposal at this time.
do we have a motion to accept the proposal?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions from the public?
Yeah, so 7.5% is supposed to be of net profits, not of sales. I think we should actually talk about what,
Let's come forward so everyone can hear your comments.
I think it might be easier to come up with a monthly, I'll give you X amount of dollars per month, as opposed to me trying to figure out what the profits are between the pool and my staff and my purchases and all that jazz.
So this doesn't take effect until Memorial Day weekend?
Correct.
Why don't we table this for this evening and while you work out the revised contract?
I'd be happy to talk about a flat fee. It's probably easier for all involved.
Probably easier for everybody.
So, and I think we've got time to do that, so as long as
there's no more bids that are allowed to come in, then yes.
bidding process is closed, so this will be it, and we'll work with Mr. Wolf on finalizing this and finalizing the payment amount. If that's agreeable to the commission, I think that's fine with us.
I just want to make sure with our legal counsel, we're not getting crossways by maybe altering what we had originally sort of put out as a bid by now going down a different path.
If I could, in the bid document, we left it open-ended about how remuneration would work, so.
Okay.
We didn't specify a
Perfect.
percent or a flat amount. We kind of left that open to the bidder, and if I think the bidder responded with 7.5% of sales, so if I misinterpreted that, which I'd be happy to work with
I
that.
actually
but-
misworded it. by
Okay.
saying sales
I-
and profits.
I think it's to the city's advantage to negotiate a flat fee. I think it's just easier for accounting purposes, so I think it's worthwhile to table this and work with the bidder on that flat fee amount, which would work out, I think, better for everybody involved, if the commission's okay with that.
And if I'm remembering correctly, I think there was some catch-all language in that bid. I remember I was here for that approval of the bid language that would capture perhaps revising a term like that in this
Yeah,
type of
it's, the
situation.
bid document is attached here. Of course, I'm not finding, but I do, we added a section about compensation, but it was left open-ended as to how they would do that, so, yeah.
I would like to see at the end of the season how the flat, if we go with the flat fee, how that would compare to 7.5% as was initially proposed. And so as we move into the following pool season, perhaps we would have a different language in the RFP as far as that goes, and to see if it is sort of in line with compensation for other types of businesses that would be coming in to use a space like that, perhaps.
I could give you a rough idea of what we made last year. And granted, we only were there for 4 or 5 weekends last year, whereas this year I believe it'll be every day, correct? So obviously it'll be a little different, but I do have numbers from last year that I could share it if it makes a difference at all. It wasn't a huge lot, but it was something. But yeah, of course, I would have no problem going over final numbers after.
We'd be interested as well. They were kind of going into this a little blind, having not done this for a few years, so I don't know where we're going to end up at the end of the year. I hope they do very well, but that's everybody's goal. So, yeah, I'll be happy to share those at the end of the season.
We could also do at the end of the season, I'll pay X amount. It'll be the greater of our set amount or 7.5% profits. It's up to you.
We can leave that up to you to.
Okay,
to
we'll
work out.
negotiate that, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
And I would just point out too, I did find the section where it talks about how the city may reject in whole or in part any proposal or portion of a proposal that in their opinion best serves the interests of the city of Huntington Woods. So I think the room is there, especially since there's only one bidder here.
Mr. Mayor, then I'll withdraw my motion and introduce a new motion to table until our next meeting.
Is that acceptable?
Yes.
All right. All those do you vote on a tabled?
Oh, yes, yes.
Vote on a table? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 3 is consideration and approval of a resolution urging state leaders to address the inadequacies of the state statutory revenue sharing. Why don't I read that so that we know what we're talking about? It's not Lynn's history. Okay, here we go. This is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Huntington Woods, urging state leaders to address the inadequacy of state statutory revenue sharing and encouraging other Michigan cities to join in this effort. Whereas the City of Huntington Woods, along with other local governments in Michigan, rely on state revenue sharing to provide essential services to our residents. And whereas state revenue sharing in Michigan is divided into 2 types, constitutional and statutory, with the latter being subject to legislative appropriations. Whereas in 1998, state policymakers amended the law to provide that statutory revenue sharing would be based upon a percentage of sales tax collections. And whereas it is this formula that is fully funded annually since 2001, and whereas statutory revenue sharing to local governments has been underfunded by more than $10 billion since 2002. And whereas the current formula for statutory revenue sharing is not only underfunded, it provides vastly different amounts of funding to communities per capita, regardless of that community's needs or commercial economic output. And whereas inadequate and unequal funding of statutory revenue sharing places undue financial strain on the city of Huntington Woods and other Michigan cities, necessitating either reductions in services or increased local taxation. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Commission of Huntington Woods, Michigan hereby urges the Governor of Michigan, the Michigan State Legislature, and other state leaders to reassess the current approach to statutory revenue sharing to ensure more stable, adequate, and equitable funding for local governments. Be it further resolved that the City of Huntington Woods encourage other Michigan local governments to adopt similar resolutions to create a unified voice on this critical issue. If approved, it will be adopted this 19th day of May 2024 by the City Commission of Huntington Woods, Michigan. Do we have a motion to accept this?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any public comment?
19th day of March.
Did I say May? Thank you.
Because I wrote it.
It actually says May on there, yes. Okay. Any comments or questions from the commission?
Mr. Mayor, I was approached by the city of Ferndale asking if we would join them and Berkeley in this effort. I mean, it's not a surprise that state government has balanced its budget for decades on the backs of local government, and that Michigan ranks dead last, 50 out of 50, not just for its electrical grid, but also for its state investment in local governments. They've done a really good job of tying our hands and balancing their own budget on our backs via state statutory revenue. And so I think that, you know, the ask is appropriate. Whether or not we move the needle or not will remain to be seen. But, you know, I think that we make our voice heard and rely on our organizations like the Michigan Municipal League and the Michigan Township Association to kind of keep this drumbeat in Lansing going. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4 is a matter of authorizing the mid-year budget amendments. Hank, you're in the wrong seat. Usually Ethan's sitting there and he would present those.
You gonna do them tonight, Hank?
I could do it. We'll take a whack at it.
I'll do my best to fill in for Mr. Hahn. He did present a series of budget amendments. Significantly in the general fund, we did have $187,000 in additional revenue, driven largely by an increase in investment income of $170,000, just because interest rates are higher than they've been in quite some time, so it is generating more revenue for us as we hold a lot of cash. There were some expenditures that were up for a few things. We had some building maintenance issues we've addressed at the library, and we did have some contracts. We did make some modifications to the contract for landscape maintenance, and just some other costs have gone up as well. But we do have a net positive to the general fund of $25,000. We did switch a couple of capital projects in the Parks and Rec Fund. We had originally budgeted some sunshade equipment for Reynolds Park for this year and a project upgrade at Elgin Park for next year. We have some funding from Men's Club for that Elgin Park fund, and we're for the Elgin Park playground equipment upgrade. And plus, we were a little bit ahead of schedule with that because we had some plans for that prior to COVID. So we're updating that. We're just switching those two projects from one year to the next. So we'll do the Elgin Park, wrap that up by the end of the year this year, then move the Reynolds Park project to next year for the sunshade, as I think we're closer to having that Reynolds Park done. Tracy's done some good work with that. Other than that, there were some minor adjustments in some of the ancillary funds, but I think that hits the larger ones. I'd be happy to try to address any questions relative to the budget amendments, but I reviewed them with Mr. Hahn, and I do recommend them approval at this time. This is for a budget, just looking at the budget as of end of December. So as we get final reports in for the end of March, we'll probably look at a second set and then a final set later before the end of the fiscal year.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion. Seconded.
Any public comment? Comments or questions from the commission?
So the Elgin Park update will be done, so the funding is for 2023-24
23, yes, we're moving that up to this fiscal year.
fiscal year, which ends.
So ends June 30th of this year. So we'll at least get the equipment purchased. We'll budget that for this year. Work on, I mean, I don't know that it'll be up by July 1, but we'll at least get the purchase made and work on the, we're closer to having that done. So we're just switching those projects, switching the fiscal year for those projects.
Thank you for the clarification on the timeline.
Okay, no problem.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5 is authorizing the adoption of the Oakland County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan. Chris, do you want to touch on that?
I've waited weeks for this. Yes. We're required to have a hazard mitigation plan, as all local governments are. Oakland County is gracious enough, they've done a good job. We work on a multi-jurisdictional plan so we can all work together on this, so we're not going alone. In Oakland County, through their emergency management department, or emergency management homeland security, works with all communities. So we kind of do this as a joint participative effort. They have put together the 2023 Oakland County multi-jurisdictional plan that has been approved by FEMA. So at this point, we have an appropriate plan, a legal plan on file that we would be able to operate in case we had a hazard, a natural hazard, or some type of event that we would need to, such as a flood or a natural disaster, that we would be able to implement, work with ourselves, work with other communities. We'd be able to assist other communities as well if they had a similar event in their community. So we have an attached resolution, which we're asking for just to adopt the multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan, because if we have this and we've spent a lot of time on it, hopefully we will never ever need to utilize it, but we will have it, it'll be on file, and if it ever is needed, we will be able to follow forward with that plan. Thanks to Oakland County for their efforts. Chief Pazakowski and his department were participating in that multi-jurisdictional effort, but it really, without Oakland County kind of spearheading that, it would be a lot more difficult for us to go alone on this. So thanks to them for their efforts to coordinate this.
Do we have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Any public comment? Comments from the commission? Questions?
Mr. Mayor, we went alone in 2014, so I'm glad the county's stepping up now. They left us all hanging in 2014, didn't even activate their emergency operations center. May I recognize that this was the south end of the county, and that was a different administration that frankly ignored the south end of the county, and we're in different times now, so it's glad to see that they are stepping forward and willing to be a partner in hazard mitigation, unlike they were, say, in 2014. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any others? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6 is approving the 2024 pavement reconstruction, sewer repair and replacement, and the water main replacement project. This is being awarded to FDM Contracting of Shelby Township in the amount of $5,485,781.25. Do we have a motion to approve?
I motion to approve. Second.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, who made the first motion? You guys sound alike. Sorry.
I motioned, she seconded. I'll use a deeper voice next time.
Yeah.
And do you want to make some comments and
I'll just-
tell us about the award winner too?
I'll very, very briefly, areas we're looking at this year were for massive reconstruction, who won the construction lottery this year. Berkeley Avenue from Balfour to Vernon, Meadowcrest from Borgman to Ludlow, Ludlow from Scotia back over to Meadowcrest, and then Sherwood, the section from Henley to Roy Court. Those will all be undergoing major reconstruction, rebuilding of the road, in many cases, replacement of sewer and water main along that project. This is a large project, which is reflected in the price of this for us. It'll be a large project for us to manage. FDM is new to Huntington Woods. They were the low bidder, or competitive bids on this. They checked out well. They've done a lot of work in Royal Oak and Wackenfrouse. Did recommend them. Our inspectors have worked with them and are happy with their work. They did list, if you saw, they did list their DEI report. They listed their subcontractors in there, many of whom we've worked with before, and we'd be happy to work with again. So it's not the firm that worked here last year. They did submit a bid, but they were not the low bid. But FDM, I think they'll do a good job, and we're confident we'll get good work. We did also, following kind of some of the issues we had last year, we did review all the areas here under contract for work. We don't have any of the off-street parking issues that we ran into last year. So I checked and double-checked, and then Hank checked, and then we quadruple-checked. So I think we're good for that. If nobody puts one in between now and then, we're good for that for this year. So I think this will be a good project, and we're going to see something relatively similar for next year that kind of ties into this. So that map's getting filled in slowly, but we're getting there to it. So.
Any public comment? Comments or questions from the commission?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I was very pleased to see their DEI policy. This is one of the better responses that we've seen come across our desk. But in addition to that, really hard for me to remember all the streets, the good work that we do during the summer here. So my request to the city manager would be to maybe put a map on the website included. You already do this in the newsletter, but maybe somewhere a little more permanent in the summertime to, so we can kind of see what the progress is and where they're going.
Okay.
Thank
We can
you.
do that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Just like that, $5.5 million spent. Okay, item number 7 is a matter of approving Berkeley School District tax collection agreement for the 2024 levy. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion. Second.
This is pretty much the same agreement that has been in place for several years. Do we have any public comment? Comments or questions from the commission? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8 is a matter of consideration of approval of the liquor license request for 10099 West 11 Mile Road, Monarch Cafe. We'll start with Hank.
Start with Mr. Berry. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm City Manager Wilson. We do have liquor licenses available. Monarch Cafe is an established business in the city of Huntington Woods and has done very well. While there are plus things for doing this, there's also a few things of concern, and it's only fair to bring up both. First, I would say that Mr. Wolf has done an exemplary job with Monarch Cafe, and the other business in there is owned by Liz DeRoven, who has also done a very nice job in Studio 11. Both of those businesses are successful, and as a result, they use all their parking. So parking is a concern with as far as the liquor license goes. I have had conversations with Mr. Wolf, and he has commented that he would be interested in serving alcohol only at times when the other business was closed, and I'll leave that for him to clarify because I don't have a specific document saying exactly what times those are. But The business has a limited seating capacity. On the inside, on his approved site plan, there's 10 spaces. So out of the 4 liquor licenses that the city of Huntington Woods has, typically what people do, or what businesses or what cities do, is to hold those licenses until such time when it's most advantageous for the city in order to do that. Right now, we're in the RRC process, which should hopefully impact Woodward and may even impact 11 Mile to some extent. And there's also the Rackham Golf Course, which may or may not at some point in time require a license or request a license in order to, that depends of course on the Rackham heirs, but in order to facilitate banquet facilities or some other changes to the Rackham Golf Course. And Coolidge may or may not have a license request when, for example, if the Rite Aid was to change and that was to turn into a food venue or something like that, or something else was to develop on Coolidge. The question is that the business has been, again, a limited seating capacity of 10 people with a total occupancy limit of 50. And it was established to be a grab-and-go operation for coffee, sandwiches, etc., rather than a full-service restaurant with long-term seating. Parking on the property is very limited, and the business was only permitted to open when the parking owner obtained parking variances, which they have, and they've abided by those. And those parking variances were granted to use and count the alley behind the building, which they currently use for employee parking. And again, the variance was granted by the ZBA in large part due to the representation that the hours of operation for the cafe would differ from the adjacent salon, and that the small cafe and business model did not result in patients lingering on site. Creating a restaurant bar type business on the property would significantly increase the average time spent in the establishment. The property already suffers from a lack of parking spaces, and this would be compounded by the parking spaces not turned over as quickly. While the city wishes Mr. Wolf all great success in Monarch, and it has been, and many, many, many residents frequent it, the question about parking is a concern. And the applicant at this point in time has turned in a diagram for what the current seating is, what the approved seating is, along with the application, which would have to be accepted by the city commission, along with the vote, and filled out and sent to, for the Liquor Control Commission. Mr. Wolf would take care of that. And then the applicant also granting a license here negates the possibility of license being used at the other advantageous locations for the city that we've discussed. One particular is Woodward that concerns us, and that is because with the RRC and with the Main Street, the associate membership that we're trying to seek in Oakland County Main Street programs, we don't own any property on Woodward. So there are a few things that we bring to the table other than that, and liquor licenses may be one of them that may be incorporated into restaurant potential first floor designations or uses for that. So whether or not the commission wants to hold out licenses for that, that of course is a decision that you would have to make. Cross parking, serving hours, as discussed with Mr. Wolf previously, and again, he says that he would serve selected hours when the salon was closed to defray parking concerns. It may work, but it would be very problematic to enforce. There would be no way for us to determine, exactly at 5 o'clock whose cars are for what and where and when. So having said that, that becomes a little bit of an issue. We will need, if he's going to do anything like that, we will need a set of documents to verify and ascertain if the change in use is feasible. It's not so much that it's a change in use, but it is a change in the way the building is used. And that refers to how long the customers would stay there, how long, because people typically could come and go for coffee, as they do frequently in there, and I'm very happy that they do. It's a great use for that area. But how long people would be there would change, and that could be problematic. Think Vincetta Garage. That was one of the biggest things that came to mind with this. And again, there's other options too here. Licenses is granted from the state is significantly less expensive than purchasing one existing one from somewhere. The new license, again, could be marketed at a significant profit without actually being used in Monarch. Whether or not that's Mr. Wolf's intention, I don't know, but the fact is that that could reduce the inventory that the city has as far as licenses, if the license would go outside of the city of Huntington Woods. So, having said that, the decision ultimately is going to be the commission's as to whether or not that this is something that the commission would like to proceed forward with. I did go over this with Carol Rosati, our city attorney. Mr. Zaluski has been involved in that too, so that everybody's quite familiar with this from a legal perspective. And I'll answer any questions that I can. Again, liquor licenses are something that's kind of new to Huntington Woods. It's not something that we've dealt with in the past. We do have them, so it would be up to the commission to decide whether or not they want to disperse it.
Thanks, Hank. Anything you want to add, Matt?
Not at the moment.
Okay. Do you want to make any comments, Jerry?
I'm not looking for this to be a bar situation, and your comparison to Vincetta Garage is humorous. I'm a coffee place. We want to serve wine from like 7 to 10 Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. We've had a number of customers ask if they come in for gelato, they want to know if they can get a beer that I sell already and drink it on premise. I can't let them because we only have an off-premise license. Parking wouldn't be an issue any more than it is now. Because we're not going to ever be serving alcohol unless Liz is closed. And Studio 11 is closed. We're not serving during the day. People don't come in. We don't have a wait staff. People don't come in ordering lunch and sitting around for 3 hours. People come in and study. They have meetings and they leave. That's all. We just really want to serve wine and whatever, just a drink. People walk up for a drink in the summertime or whatever. 3 days a week. That's it. That's all we're asking for, really. But I don't see why holding on to licenses that you have 4 of for the possibility of something that hasn't happened ever to the detriment of a business that's already established in your city that people have been asking for. So that's all. I'll leave the rest up to you. And I will answer any other questions you might have.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I comment?
Yeah.
I think, just to clarify, I understand the Michigan rules, and I appreciate Mr. Wolf's comments, but municipalities don't regulate liquor serving establishments, they're regulated by the state. So without any kind of an agreement, which I don't even know what form that would take, the only guidelines here are those that are set forward by the state. So hours could be as early as 8 o'clock in the morning, could be as late as I think at 2 a.m. On most nights. And I'm not saying that's his intent. I frankly don't believe that it is, but we don't control that. We have no control over that. So that would be.
I was just telling you what
Pardon?
I was just telling you what I was planning on doing.
I appreciate that, but the state clearly has jurisdiction over regulation of these operations. So if this is approved at this state, at this point, that's all open for Mr. Wolf or whoever had this license operating in that location. He does currently have a liquor license. He has what's commonly referred to as a package license, which is a wholesale license, which he's had and maintained and is in good standing. But under Michigan state law, you cannot, under the Liquor Control Commission rules, you can't operate both of those at the same time. So if you're selling wholesale, right, you can't sell as a you can't consume on site. That's why, if you ever go to a restaurant, they yell at you, you can't take that off site, right? The rules are pretty strict about that. So the wholesale or retail, I think wholesale is the right word to use. Retail says would have to cease if this license were granted on that spot. He'd have to make a choice which way he wanted to go with that. So that was the only clarification I wanted to add. But the city has really limited jurisdiction into regulating these. Have limited police powers over these operations. And Mr. Zaluski, if you want to correct anything I said that was out of line, I might have misquoted something. But
No, I agree. I mean, absent anything tied to more of a zoning type approach to regulating the business. The license itself is in the purview of the state.
So do we, as a local municipality, through the zoning board, have the right to put restricted times and days that,
There's really nothing in this particular context that would give you a vehicle for doing that, certainly not this body. And in looking at it, we really haven't seen this as a change of use per se. I think, as Mr. Berry was describing it, it's really kind of more of a change of activity of what's going on and change the nature of the liquor offering that's there. But in terms of finding something in the zoning ordinance that would get you that specifically, it's not there.
Is there?
So- so my understanding is you'd have to give up the package license in order
That's what I've been
to,
asking earlier.
have
Have the class.
for the ability of serving glasses of wine on Thursday, Fridays, and Sundays, Saturday, three evenings from 7 to 10. Okay, I just want to make sure I understood that. Is there any, I don't know, because we haven't dealt with this before, this is certainly something that I think would be ideal if we had more detail about exactly what was being presented here, if it would go to somebody. The planning commission, I think, would be ideal to open this up to notification to the residents nearby, so that we got a little more, some public input on their thoughts. Is that something we could refer to the planning commission? I think we need some more detail in the application before we can ask them to hold a public hearing, but I think it's important that we get public notification of what's going on, whether it's a use change or not. It seems to me like it is a use change, but maybe it's not.
The issue is just finding the vehicle to get you there, and I don't believe we found it, given the way that the zoning districts are written. So I just don't really see, especially at this point in the process, a way to move it into a planning commission process necessarily. But certainly, in terms of needing the information that you need to make a decision, you're well within your right to request additional information to consider the application. And ultimately, that's important too, because when evaluating the application to send it over to the state, there's a line on there saying, well, why does what's the city's concerns? And, if you don't have the information you need to weigh all your concerns, then how can you make that certification?
One more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
When we issue a license, is there any restriction on that license staying in Huntington Woods and not being sold somewhere else, or does it
I don't believe
stay
there
in
is.
Huntington Woods?
I think it is available to go on the market.
I don't know of any restrictions, no, they could, there is a, for these Class C license in particular, there is a private market for those, and those can be sold. And certain communities, there was actually a article in the Free Press about this today. Certain communities are above their allotment because they've been able to purchase these. And they weren't always the ones you think of. One was like Escanaba, but Detroit, Hamtramck, or Port Huron, places that have a lot of tourists, the ones you would expect, but other communities as well have been able to purchase these from other municipalities who are using their allotment, and we would, at this time, be one of those communities. But yeah, once the license is issued, it's transferable by the owner on the open market.
Okay.
So, and Mr. Wolf, look, my whole family is a fan of getting our hair cut and your fruit smoothies, so congratulations on the continued success. My question or comment is more about like what I just heard. We've never dealt with this before, right? And as we're finishing up Main Street strategies and redevelopment ready community certification, it's one thing for the state to regulate. It's the other, and I think Mr. Mayor, you touched on a really important point, is that public input process. And even though the use is still the same by zoning, this could potentially change the hours of activity and impact the neighborhood. So I do agree that there needs to be some, when I first looked at this packet, I didn't feel like I had enough information to even form an opinion on it because there was not enough information about hours of operation, what this would look like. So it was very helpful to hear from you, Mr. Will. But I think zeroing out from a public policy and transparency, consistency application at your local government, what I would recommend is that the administration needs to think about what does this look like in the future? Like what are some expected, needed information from a business that is applying for a liquor license with the city of Huntington Woods so that we can be consistent, right? And we want to support our existing businesses who have invested here, that it's been successful. We want to continue to support you in your evolution. But if, say, we have 4 licenses available, I don't want to be up here going, well, I think this and I think that. I want to be able to do this in a transparent, consistent manner. And you know what I'm getting at, right? A policy. I would like to see something established that we can judge a project without bias, with a checklist of this is the information we need in order to make the decision in a fair and consistent way.
Yeah, and I think it's entirely possible to get there. It's not unusual for communities to have specific licensing sections in their ordinances dedicated to liquor licenses, and that was one of the first things I looked for prior to today to try to provide some guidance, but it wasn't there.
Right.
So, and I think that's a symptom of the fact that this is a novel issue for the city, and it oftentimes takes the issue to come up before that happens. But so that is absolutely something that can be looked at
And
going
it
into the
doesn't have to be
future.
an ordinance, it can just
Right.
be, this is the piece of paper that
Sure,
needs to be
sure.
filled out to give us the information that we need. So, I think that would be really helpful. And yeah, I don't know that I have enough information tonight to make any decisions.
So perhaps, in the meantime, if it's the wish of the council to table it for more information, I would just suggest identifying the information they would need in order to make that decision. If you
Mr.
need
Mayor.
anything else from us, let us know.
One other thing is, I don't think we're foreclosed from doing what we typically do in planning and zoning matters, and that is drawing the radius around the property of the specified number of feet and notifying those residents that fall within that circle that, hey, something near you is being considered, whether it's a rezoning or a site plan review or a liquor license request, and giving folks an opportunity to come in, hear about it, and provide feedback. So, I mean, we could treat it the same way as we treat a zoning change and provide notice to residents to give them an opportunity to come in and provide feedback.
You absolutely could. There's no penalty for providing more procedures than are normally required. And then certainly if that's something you're looking at doing down the road and then you institutionalize that, then you're having a fair approach to it across all future applications.
Mr. Mayor, I would also be interested in a better understanding of the parking implications. Like how many parking spaces are there? If there's more than 10 occupants, the impact that that's going to have. I think about, not that it's Starbucks, but I think about like the Starbucks on Woodward and how traffic gets backed up. Not suggesting that that's the case when people are looking for parking, but just what the implications will be to the neighborhood and the ability for people to park close enough to access the business.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, what I might suggest, if it's the inclination of this commission to table this request, is that this does not qualify as a special land use because it already is considered a use in this business district. However, that doesn't preclude the commission, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that doesn't preclude the commission from asking for some of the same documentation that you would in a special land use, such as the business plan specific to hours and how much, and the hours and the type of that, how many employees would be on staff, and the seating arrangement. Mr. Wolf has indicated the seating arrangement would not change, which would mean that he would have 10 seats. So having said that, then we have a formula already in place that we can use to determine how many spaces he would need. at the times that the salon would be closed. Because there's a variance that was obtained in order to make this work, we would like to be able to have the opportunity to check that against the variance to see exactly what it would be and if any additional spaces would be required based on the staffing levels needed in order for Mr. Wolf to facilitate the business and/or the proposed change in the use. So that would be something that could be provided to the city commission and staff in document form and could be reviewed for perhaps the next meeting, which would also mean that, like always, we send everything to legal. So they would also have the opportunity to do that. So it would be kind of a quasi-site plan review. We certainly could use the 300-foot radius in the circle that Commissioner Roselle was talking about, which is what we use for planning and zoning for that. So we would have a basis for a consistent model for that. And perhaps that could help give you enough information in order to make a decision based on that.
May I ask another question? While the site plan or the business plan, which indicates the 10 seats, the occupancy is 50. So is that what the business would be held to so that people could stand or be outside in the patio seats?
The patio seats and serving alcohol outside would be a special land use request. So if they were going to do that, that would have to go back to the planning commission to have that. The business was originally proposed to have the 10 seats inside. The patio kind of happened, and realistically, it was kind of viewed as kind of a test to see what was going to happen with that. And so far, the spaces have been tight, but the businesses there are holding their own with that. We're not having too much trouble. We do get some overflow parking issues that go to the park, but we've not noticed any that go to the side streets or to Kingston, which would be the backup street to that.
No, they all park on Stanton.
So, but they do.
But
We do.
Hank, the occupancy of 50, right? So
Yes.
there could be an additional 40 people standing in that business.
That's possible with the understanding that also includes employees, and the 50 number comes from the fire marshal. So for planning and zoning purposes, you get one space for every 2 seats that are in there. So those are the required spaces that he has, plus spaces for the employees. So that's where his spaces came out of that.
I can actually have 20 people in that, sitting in that 10. I get 10 spaces.
But he has 10 spaces, but there's 10 spaces, but there's 2 people for each car, 2 people per car. So you need 2 people account towards 1 parking space. So that's what he has. Originally, when this was dealt with, it was dealt with as an assembly, which was the category that fell into, as Mr. Wolf was putting together sandwiches and that. And quite honestly, from a planning standpoint, I'm ecstatic that he's done really well there. The question is whether or not that would support the new use. It's not a new use, but the new use of the building. It's not that the use has changed. He's still a restaurant, falls into different categories, restaurant, assembly, that type of thing. The uses and the consistency would be the same. My suggestion would be is to get the additional information and see what Mr. Wolf can provide. And if the commission would be more comfortable with that, that's certainly an avenue you can take, or you can vote on it tonight.
Mr. Mayor, I did have one other question for our attorney. You know, the Marijuana Regulatory Act has a lot of restrictions in terms of placement, right? Near schools, parks, playgrounds. The Liquor Control Act, does that have similar restrictions? Are we able to put it near a park with, what would be considered a liquor license for on-premise consumption abutting a park? Is that any type of, I know there's a lot of regulations in the one act. I don't know if this act contains similar
Right,
language.
and with the different types of licenses, so I need to do a little deeper dive, but off the top of my head, I mean, it's not like the marijuana act. I mean, most of that type of stuff would come at the local level through zoning.
I think it's quite obvious we have a lot of questions and need more answers, not only from the applicant, but from how the Liquor Control Commission.
Then you need to provide the questions so that I can provide the answer.
Well, we need a complete plan, for sure. I mean, I don't know now if we're proposing 10 seats or 20 seats inside the
I'm
restaurant.
only allowed 20 seats. Hank missed.
So we just need all that detail in the application. At least I do. can't speak for everyone, but, I mean, if I was to vote on it now, I just don't have enough information. It's your decision. If you would like a vote now, we can do that, or we can table this for more information.
Table it if you need more information, but I need to know what kind of information you need.
And I think that's where that form for consistency for future
The same thing as the
projects.
RFP for the cafe. Like, tell me what you want, and I'll provide it.
Okay, do we have a motion to table?
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I'm not sure where we go from here, but you have a laundry list of things, of comments from us, so.
Administration has our direction. We will make sure Mr. Wolf is aware of what information I think we need to move forward. And
Okay, thank
we have ample
you.
time to provide that for the next meeting.
All right, item number 9 is consideration to authorize a request for reimbursement for money spent to combat the West Nile virus. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Seconded.
My computer shut off on me, so. Do you have a dollar amount on paper copy?
$983 what we will spend will be eligible for reimbursement of $794.94 from Oakland County.
Okay. Any public comment?
What would you do to, I happen to be an infectious disease physician and I'm curious to see this. What measures would you be taking?
Put
to combat
briquettes.
West Nile virus?
If I may, the county provides us with larvicide in the form of briquettes.
Sounds mosquito.
So we primarily introduce those into the catch basins where we have standing water. And we've done that for quite a few years now. That's the most kind of quickest and effective method we have. So we'll introduce those larvicides into the catch basins, any ditches with standing water, to try to get mosquito kill.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the commission? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 10 is appointments of residents to various boards, commissions, and committees. One of these appointments is a mayoral appointment. And I would like to appoint Barbara Berger White to the Library Advisory Board, if the commission would so approve.
Move to confirm the mayor's appointment.
I will second it.
Any public comment? Commission comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Mayor Pro Tem Rozell, would you like to address the other ones?
Sure, I'll take appointing Ben Shipper to the Board of Review, and Laura Evans to the Environmental Advisory Committee. All right, Wendy Slutsky and Sharon Burke to the Arts and Garden Board, terms ending 12/31/26. And then Naomi and Erica, I don't have her last name. Just. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, to Parks and Rec. Naomi's term ending 12/31/25 and Erica's term ending 12/31/26.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any public comment? Comments or questions from the commission? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. City managers report.
Thank you, Mayor. Finance Director Hahn cannot be here with us tonight. Well, he could have been, but he's not. But for very good reason, he's excused because as of 11:33 PM on March the 6th, Piper Sage Hahn came into the program. So he's been off for a couple of weeks on paternity, what do you call it? Male paternity leave. No, on paternity leave. Same thing, it's not fraternity leave, on paternity leave. Came back yesterday and almost made it to 5 o'clock, I think he left at 4. But, mother and child are doing well. Piper came in to visit us last Thursday, very cute, so congratulations to, Ethan and to Cassidy and to all the grandparents who are now very happy as well, so. He will be returning to work, tomorrow, and after that, we're playing it, day by day, but he will be phasing his way back in, as time allows. I did put out a note, if anybody's listening now, tomorrow, Wednesday at 1 o'clock, there will be a tornado siren test for, Storm Weather Week by Oakland County. So, don't be alarmed. It's normally on a Saturday at 1 o'clock. They're gonna be doing it tomorrow all across the county. They will also be putting out a test emergency message if you happen to have your NOAA radio on at 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, you will pick that up. Other broadcast stations may play that, but it is just a test, as a test for emergency week. So we have some information about that on our Facebook page. Did have a meeting, late last week with representatives from, from Berkeley Public Schools relative to Burton School, and some, improvements they're looking to make on those school grounds. So I think that was, positive. They've been working with us cooperatively on that. Just to remind the commission, public school buildings those aren't subject to our normal site plan review process that is governed by the state and the state construction board, but they are working with us on some other matters relative to the grounds, and so it's been productive. And then they are sharing, and it was a good and productive meeting. We did get a draft, a preliminary draft of the parks capital improvement plan. I'll be sharing that with the commission later on through this week. It is the first rough draft of that. So thanks to MKSK, thanks to Tracy and all her staff for their work at Parks and Rec on getting that done. I think it's a good, positive first draft. It does give us kind of a blueprint to how to guide a lot of our capital investments over the next 5 years, which we're happy to do. And this Thursday, Verigy will be presenting the plan that Commission heard a couple of months ago to the Environmental Sustainability Committee. We ended up having to cancel for the last meeting. They are going to make that presentation Thursday night to them and get their feedback and their input. So I think that'll be helpful, and I'll report that back to the Commission as to how that goes. So that's the end of my report.
Are there any questions from the commission for the city manager?
So when we get the draft report, will MKSK be presenting it like at a commission meeting, or are we going to do a study meeting? How are we going to, special meeting, how are we going to interact with them regarding this report?
Well, that's going to be interesting because the staff that has worked on that has now left for another firm. So I have contacts there now who I'm getting. What I'll probably ask is that you give your feedback back to me. Let me have the updates made, and I can either get somebody from MKSK or city administration can handle the reporting of that. But the people who worked on the majority of this are no longer there. So they finished it up before they left, but we're left with the form now to kind of put it in final form. And I'm happy to. I think I can handle the presentation of that. And Tracy's very well versed in all this as well. We've been involved with it since day one. So we do want to get your feedback before a final view. It's your document. It's the commission's working document. So we want to make sure it reflects your wishes. So if you get that feedback back to myself, I can make any changes or modifications, and then we'll go forward to the public presentation when you know it reflects your wishes.
As we're going forward with the Parks Improvement Plan, not 100% connected to it, but the landscaping improvements that we talked about last fall.
Yeah.
Can we get an opportunity to meet with that contractor and hear what the plans are? And
I should have probably updated that as well, because we did meet with them last week. Joe Egan from the Parks and Recreation Board joined us in that meeting. DPW was here. I think Hank even said it on that. So it was good. They gave us a preliminary plan. We made some modifications that I don't have the revision. Focused on a handful of parks. We focused on the areas that we felt were important. I will share that with the commission, but it involved, just roughly speaking, City Hall grounds here, our entranceway signs, Lebanon, Woodward, Scotia and 10 Mile. What am I missing, Hank? Coolidge and
Service Drive.
Service Drive, yeah. So all the entranceway where we have signs, we talked about dressing those up. The area here in front of City Hall. And I asked them to put particular focus on the grounds around the recreation center, Gills have been, there's some planning is there, but he's a little bit more intentional work on that. So I have that scope and I have that design. It was pretty thorough. We made some modifications to it. So it's a good building block for this year. I think we'll get good color. We're gonna target the right areas. And particularly the area at 11 Mile and Woodward, if you've seen in the Planning Commission agendas, Thrifty Florist has put together a plan for a complete redo of that building. So I think to coordinate those two together at that important corner will be great to get a kind of a new look for that area this summertime. So I will have that report. I should have it from Great Lakes soon, and I'll share that with the commission when I get it.
Could we get a copy of that to the Art and Garden Board and Parks and Rec Board too, just so
Yes,
they have an
we'll share that with
opportunity
both of
to
them.
see it?
Yes.
Any other questions?
I have a question, 2 questions. So I appreciate the notification about the tornado sirens. Has that been communicated to Burton, to the administration, so that they can be prepared?
I don't know. I'll make sure it goes out to them tomorrow. I think they should, Oakland County should have notified them. I'll make sure, I'll check with the principal tomorrow, make sure that they have that.
Okay. And then in your conversations with the school district about updates to the grounds, did they discuss at all drainage for the field which they own?
Yes, that was part of I guess, the modifications they want to make to the physical building now, which would address that area, the playground structures, and also the parking lot area along Nadine, which we're working with them really directly on, making some important modifications there. They also have some ideas for the Burton Club, the field, for exactly what you're talking about, drainage improvements, maybe reworking how some of the ball fields work there. I've actually shared with them, as part of the conversation, I shared with them all the specs from the men's club field at 11 Mile, because what they're looking to do is pretty much what we just did. So they were a little operating in the dark as far as scale and cost, so I kind of explained them what the costs were, and I've sent them the specs for that. I hope will help them. Because it's roughly the same project they need to do there with that. So, but yes, they are looking to make modifications to the Burton Field area as well, either at the same time or maybe slightly after they make the modifications to the school.
I have a question about the parks improvement plan. So it's, the content of it is what the recommendations are, right? And the priorities and the implementation recommendation. In addition to that, will it have the plan for the public input process and how the parks, the timing of that process? Is that a part of it?
Of the public input process, we had the public hearing in December, and they've already done this. They did an open survey, online survey for this, and got the number of responses are there. So that's incorporated into the recommendations, the input that we received from the open house and from all the open comments that we got.
Right.
And it was measured against the 2020 master plan comments as well. So you saw some overlap in some of that. And actually, I won't spill the beans, but you see a little bit of, areas like Peasley Park where we made some improvements. You saw how people's perception of that changed over the period of time. So we took the 2020 baseline, took the comments we got from 2023, and then some from 2024 from the online comments, and that drove their recommendations for the capital program. You'll see that in the document.
Right. But my question is more about, as this body makes decisions for each of those parks, as they're getting implemented, was that the public process, that's it? Or is there a plan, like what is the communication plan? Is that a part of it? And engaging with the Art and Garden Board and Parks and Recreation Board, because there's a lot of parks.
Yeah.
There's 13, right?
Yes, well, we focused, this is gonna focus on a 5-year plan focusing on the first 5 parks. That's why we have.
Right, so what I'm saying is you
tonight.
collected the data and
Yes.
the input, and now you're
Yes.
gonna get it through us as well and the 2 committees, advisory committees. You collected that input for the public, but then now we're going to implement and make decisions about it. So I would imagine that we still want to keep our community informed of what's happening.
Sure, we can still do that through a public engagement process. Ultimately, what we're producing is just a capital improvement plan, a 5-year plan of, here's where we're gonna target the dollars, here's what it costs, and here's a timeline for getting that done. So that's what we'll present. And we can modify, it's the commission's document, so you can take input and modify that. And those plans do get, everybody has a 5-year plan, they always get modified all the time. So yeah, that wouldn't be stopping now. We've just used the engagement we have to this point. We've had to this point to create the document we have, but it's designed to be it would be a living document that we would review every budget process, and we could take input at any point we wanted to.
Okay,
get
so it's a part of the
feedback.
budget process every year.
It's a budget document.
Update,
It's
okay.
it's guiding how we're gonna put those capital dollars that we have toward our parks. So
Okay.
yeah, it's something that would be ongoing every year, we would review that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Commissioners' comments? Pro Tem Rozell,
No comments, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Elder,
No comments, thank you.
Commissioner Steiner.
No comments.
No comments for me, so do we have a motion to adjourn the regular city commission meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Meeting adjourned.